Welcome to episode 23 of the Busted Buttons Video Game Podcast. Like always, another great podcast for you. Probably not going to be as fun as last week because, man, we had a blast talking some Super Mario Odyssey. But this week, we're kind of going to get back into really just a bunch of stuff going on in video gaming. We're going to talk, I just bought Ghost of Tsushima, having a blast. We're going to talk about that. The Xbox Series X showcase happened recently. Because we did the Super Mario Odyssey podcast, we didn't get a chance to talk about it when we wanted to, so we're going to talk about it on this episode. And then we're going to kind of talk about, did persuade which console we're going to buy first. Then we're going to go into open world games. We're going to talk about the art style, the music, and then we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit and talk about Riot Games and League of Legends and this whole Saudi Arabia partnership that, let's just say, it didn't work out so well for them. And then if we get some time, we might talk about some of the streamers that are getting banned on Twitch, and then also if games can kind of teach us some culture. I don't know if we're going to get to those last two or three, but we'll try. But anyways, Red, I'm going to kind of throw it over to you so I don't talk so much at the beginning, even though I know you don't have Ghost of Tsushima. But I want to ask you, is this, I know it's a game that you are excited about, but is it a game you're going to, one, purchase? I think you are. And if so, are you going to purchase it soon, or are you going to wait till after you get done with a certain game? Blah, blah, go ahead.
My plan is to buy it as soon as I finish up with The Last of Us Part 2. I'm playing that at a snail's pace. I'm maybe only 13, 14 hours into that one, so I am excited for Ghost of Tsushima. I've been absolutely pumped for it since they announced it at E3 a couple of years ago with just a short teaser trailer. I know it got delayed a couple times. Then they were making sure that they didn't release the same time as The Last of Us Part 2. Yep. Of course, you don't want to overlap too much like that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited for it. I can't wait to check it out. I've got a couple of friends and coworkers who've bought it already and have had nothing but great things to say about it. The people on our Discord have seemed to have loved it so far. It didn't get the best critical reception. I think most places had like a 7 or an 8, something like that, which, hey, I still think is pretty rock solid. If I could put out a game and got an 8 rating out of it, I'd be pretty damn happy. But it seems like the fans, or at least all that I've talked to, absolutely are loving it. It sounds almost like Assassin's Creed, but with samurai. So I am all in. I'm just finishing up The Last of Us Part 2 before I buy it. But you have bought it, like you said, and you've had a chance to put at least a few hours into it. What are kind of some of your initial impressions, and are you enjoying it so far?
Man, I tell you, the critics and fans, they can never agree on a video game, it seems like. If one reviews are high, the others are really low. But so far, I've gotten about 3 hours in, and I am very impressed. Now, I know it's very early on in the game, and there's a lot more to play. And as you go through the game, like, you can start to hate parts, and maybe you don't think as highly as the game overall. But so far, 3 hours in, oh, man, I am very impressed. So far, I mean, the game, and we knew this kind of going into it, but the game looks absolutely beautiful, and it kind of uses this art style that is definitely realistic, and I think we're going to kind of talk about this a little bit later on in more detail, but it uses an art style that is definitely realistic, but also has like an anime or animation style to it, somewhat like Breath of the Wild, even though Breath of the Wild was a lot more, animated or anime or however, whatever the right term is for that stuff. But
we're not art experts.
It kind of has that, like, I don't know the technicalities of this, but like that cell shading or whatever that
it's like stylized.
Kind of makes a game like Breath of the Wild that's only 900p makes that look really good. It kind of has that art style to it while being more realistic, but like I said, overall, the game is just absolutely gorgeous. So far, one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. Now, obviously, you have to be playing on a 4K TV to really see the game pop.
Absolutely, yeah.
But just, I mean, it's different. Like, I never played a game based on a samurai, and so I kind of love that whole aspect. And then, obviously, it's got like a Japanese culture to it. It's got Japanese sound, like, the music going on, which also, and we're going to talk about this later on too, like, music in open world games.
Yep.
Like, it has a little bit more music than the games I've played lately that have been open world games. And I really, like, obviously it has a Japanese sound, like I said, and I love that, but I also love that it has a little bit more music in it, but just... like I said, I'm not very far in. Like, the story, is okay so far. I just really haven't got into it deep enough. But just the beauty of the game, I love the mechanics so far. First of all, the fighting seems very smooth. Now, I have heard complaints about that later on in the game, or just overall in the game, but I have not experienced it yet. And then the animations that kind of come along with fighting, it just looks good. It looks natural, and so far with that, the beauty, the mechanics, mechanics and just the way everything comes together so far. Like, what you collect to do certain things and how you upgrade them. So far, I'm liking that. That's something I could definitely see changing. That changes a lot for me. So I can see that possibly changing, but so far, like, we talked about this, like the hub. We go into the start or you hit that big button on the PS4 controller and it brings you to the hub where you got, your collectibles, your map, your quest, like all that so far and how that is brought together. Like, that's a big deal for me.
Just very well integrated and very intuitive.
Yeah, like
and
these
smooth.
open world games, like sometimes there can just be too much. And if you don't bring it together in the hub the proper way, like it can really just become too much, a little bit overwhelming, I think, when you're playing a game.
Yeah.
But so far, this game brings it together really well. And they also use the touch pad on the PS4 controller, which many games don't do that. The Last of Us Part 2 did it when you're playing the guitar. Love that. This one, a very simple mechanic. The wind guides you. Like, if you, you mark a location on the map, and a lot of times they'll kind of just show that location. You'll go towards it. This game uses the wind. So, like, you you swipe up.
You're thinking of that guitar in The Last of Us,
You touch up or swipe up on the touchpad, and the wind will show you, like, kind of where to go. So,
okay, that's neat.
I don't know, man. Like, here's how I judge, like, if a game, there's a lot of different ways I judge if a game's good.
Oh, of course.
But how bad do I want to play it? Like, if I get free time, like, am I dying to play it? Or am I just like, okay, yeah, I'll play this game. And so far, I'm like, okay, I want to get some free time. I want to play this game and just absolutely loving it so far. Very excited to play it.
It's
like,
funny
not very far
in,
but I do honestly think it's going to be a great game. But were you saying something?
Yeah, sorry, I was cutting you off there. I know you've been talking for a hot second. So,
but
it's funny you mentioned like the beauty of the game because it seems like when you get near the end of a console's like generation cycle, like we know the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are coming out, here in the next few months. But when you get near the end of a console's life is when it seems like the most beautiful games really do come out, because by that point, developers, especially first-party developers like Naughty Dog, really know how to get the absolute most out of the technology. Like when games first come out for a new console, it's like the developers don't know all the little tricks to get the most out of it. They don't have the experience and the knowledge yet. So I love kind of getting some of these games as you get near the end of the console cycle, even though, most likely they're going to be games you play once and then you buy the new console here in a few months and we never play them again. But I remember here just in the last, 6 months or so, we've talked about how Death Stranding, one of the most beautiful games we've ever played. The Last of Us Part 2, absolutely beautiful. Now Ghost of Tsushima also sounds and looks, from what I've seen anyway, just absolutely stunning. So I really like seeing some of these games that come out near the end of a console's life cycle because, like I said, they've learned how to get the most out of the hardware, the software, the development kits. So I'm super excited to eventually check it out. So before I cut you off, was there anything else that you were wanting to talk about with it?
I think the only thing I wanted to say is I love how it's guiding me so far. Like, I know a lot of people, they play an open world game, they just want to go. That I have a little bit of that in me, but I also want to be guided at the beginning. And what I'm kind of talking about, like, show me what you need to collect to get certain upgrades, or show me, like, what's important in the game and what it does for me. Like, let me go explore, let me go about the land, but kind of guide me in a way. And it's doing a great job of that so far. So, I mean, right now, 3 hours in, I have no complaints whatsoever, other than I just haven't had enough time to play the game. But anyways,
that's a complaint with every game.
Speaking of new games, Microsoft recently had their showcase where they showed off a bunch of games for the Xbox Series X. And Red, I've seen the showcase. I meant to watch it again before the podcast, and damn it, I didn't get to it. So I don't really remember most of these games, but kind of go ahead and talk about some of the games from the showcase that you're excited about with the next gen console.
Well, first and foremost is Halo Infinite. I mean, it's obviously Microsoft's biggest franchise. We've been fans almost since day one. I think you actually jumped in around Halo 2, didn't you? But either way, we've been fans for over a decade of this series. So Halo Infinite it didn't matter what they showed me. I was going to buy it. When it comes to Halo, I'm one of those fans. But it looked to me like just more Halo. And I'm absolutely okay with that. It looked like it played and controlled like a Halo game, and they're going for a more open world, a little more, not necessarily exploration, but letting you tackle objectives kind of maybe in your own order. And it just really reminded me of the very beginning of the original Halo campaign, where you first land on the ring and they're like, okay, now we need to go gather the other Marines, and you can kind of go find them in whatever order you want. So if they take that entire concept and make like all of Halo Infinite that open, I am just stoked for it. I mean, so no matter what, Halo Infinite was going to jump out and get me excited, and it didn't fail.
Yep.
I know some people kind of critiqued a little bit of like the graphics, things like that, whatever. I'm not that hung up on it. I know that both systems are going to put out absolutely beautiful games. I mean, that's just the way it is. So, but the gameplay looked awesome. It looked like more Halo. So that I'm absolutely on board with that. So I know. So, do you have anything you want to say on Halo Infinite?
No, I'm the same way with you. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm going to buy the game. And when I watch the gameplay, it's like you said, it looked like Halo, but that's all Halo needs to do. It just needs to look like Halo. It doesn't need to do anything special. It's been great for a long time now. You hear some fans complain about, 4 and 5 a lot because they kind of changed the story and some of the mechanics. But for me, I didn't even need to see the gameplay. I'm going to buy this game. I thought it looked stunning. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about maybe having a little bit more exploration, a tad bit more open. Well, it won't be open world, but not as linear. A little bit of a hint of open world, like kind of like God of War had. And so I'm excited for it. But go ahead with your next game.
So I think the next one that really jumped out for me, and we've known about this one for quite a while, is Hellblade 2. Senua's Saga is one of the first ones I believe that they announced was going to be Xbox exclusive, and I played the first one, and it was an absolute surprise to me. Like, I remember it came out, it was from a smaller developer. I think it wasn't even like a full $60 release, I don't think, at the time. But it got great reviews, and people talked about, hey, it looked great, it had a good story, it handled, spoilers for a several-year-old game, but like your character's kind of going insane throughout the game. And it sounds like the developers did a great job of handling, like, dealing with like someone going insane as you're controlling that character. And so I played the first Hellblade. I loved it. It blew me away. I was completely surprised. So for the second one, I'm just really curious to see where they take her story, because kind of in the first one, she kind of overcame that insanity and kind of losing her mind. So I'm really curious to see what happens to her next. It also looked beautiful. I know we didn't really get gameplay. I think we just got a trailer for it.
Yep.
But it looks gorgeous. I've heard, I think, because I have this written down from my notes from a little while ago, is that they're using Unreal Engine 5, which of course, we saw that PlayStation demo a little while back that everyone was blown away by. So I'm excited for that. It's set in Iceland, which I think is kind of a fun new kind of setting. I know that's kind of up in that, like, that Viking Nordic area, but it's just
it's beautiful though.
Exactly. So I'm stoked for Hellblade. But what would be next on your list that you're really excited for? I could probably guess where you're going.
I'm going Forza. I mean, you knew where I was going with this.
Oh,
for me, Xbox, Halo, and Forza. I know a lot of people aren't racing fans.
Yeah,
I absolutely love racing games. I love the fact that, like, with Ghost of Tsushima, one thing that I'm kind of worried about is open world fatigue, because I've also been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yep,
so, I kind of you do hit that level with open world. I'm worried about it. I think I'm going to power through it. But Forza gives me that, hey, if I do hit that fatigue, I can just, start at Forza and do a couple races. Now, here's the thing. They just did Forza Motorsport, like, as a title. Just fucking call it Forza Motorsport 8, Xbox. Don't get all cute with the names. You've already tried to do that. Yes, the system will sell, but the names, just you gotta do better with the names. And I don't know if they're gonna call it just Forza Motorsport, but if they're like, oh, we're going for like a new concept of gaming, it's fucking racing. You race around a track. You can't reinvent a racing game. You can just add stuff to it. So don't complicate it, Xbox. Right? Call it Forza Motorsport 8. That's what it's supposed to be. Don't piss me off again with the names. All right, let's keep it simple. But anyways, like with Gran Turismo on the PlayStation, Forza is going to be beautiful. It's going to be a game I enjoy. Now, here's the thing, Red. I'm really not that excited about any other games. Like, I sat there and I was watching the presentation. I was kind of like, I guess I'm a little bit biased towards PS5 right now, because just PlayStation in general. I'm just biased towards PlayStation right now because I've been so impressed with, PlayStation 4 versus Xbox One and what they've been able to do with all their exclusives. And so I think, kind of going to the showcase, like, I was very impressed with PlayStation 5, but I think rightfully so. Then the Xbox One happened, and as I'm there watching, I'm like, okay, don't let your PlayStation bias, like, blind you.
Yeah.
But, I'm sitting there, I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, maybe, but, like, there was really nothing else. Like, I think Avowed is kind of, wasn't that an open world RPG game?
Yeah, Avowed actually really piqued my interest because it looks like a first-person RPG. Like if you've ever played, I know you've played Skyrim, but yeah, if anyone out there's played the Elder Scrolls games in general are like first-person RPGs. So that one caught my attention. Plus, I really like the developer, Obsidian, has done some games I've absolutely loved. They've got a long history of RPGs. So if they can pull off something like an Elder Scrolls game and hopefully put their own unique stamp on it so it's not just a clone, then Avowed definitely got my attention. So that one did pop up on my radar. But another one that kind of did that I'm probably more excited for than a lot of people is Stalker 2. When I first built a gaming PC a long time ago, my video card came with a copy of the original Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl. And it was like a survival first-person shooter game. So it was kind of a unique twist. It was set in, like where the Chernobyl nuclear meltdown happened over in Russia all those years ago. And the first Stalker, it was a very different, because I'm used to first-person shooters, you run, you gun. There's not a whole lot to them. But this one had a little bit more of like the survival elements built into it. I never touched, there was at least a second one called like Call of, I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, so this isn't really Stalker 2. It's just more Xbox screwing up their naming. But I am excited for Stalker 2. Like I said, I enjoyed the first one many years ago. And so I'm excited for that one. But kind of go into like the PlayStation Showcase versus the Xbox Showcase comparison, not to dive too deep into it, but like, because I know we're going to talk a little bit about what we're buying first here in a minute. But I kind of felt that way that you just described when I was watching the PlayStation one. Like, yeah, the Spider-Man excited me, Horizon Zero Dawn excited me, but nothing else really did, or nothing that was an exclusive. Like, yeah, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is going to be beautiful, but it's going to be on both systems, so it's it's whatever. But so I kind of felt that way from the PlayStation one as well. There were a few in the Xbox one that definitely excited me. Like I said, your Halo, your Forza, the Avowed, Stalker, even though a lot of those, Hellblade 2, even though a lot of those are probably a year or two out still, if not longer, I thought I had a couple more on the Xbox side that really jumped out to me. But without getting too far ahead of ourselves here, because we're going to talk about that here in a second, were there any other quick hits that you wanted to hit on the games?
No, like I said, I try to take my bias away from it, but I was just not that impressed with the games. And like I said, like Halo, yes. Forza, yes. Avowed. First of all, I hate first-person RPGs. Like, so throw me over the shoulder. Give me third person. Yeah, Skyrim had the first person, but you could, at least in the Switch version, you could switch off to third person. So if it's a first-person game, I might not even get it because I hate first person that much. I like being able to see my character. I'm the same way with Forza. Like if I'm driving, like I like being behind the car. I don't like being in the car. So it's just something with perspectives and stuff that I hate. But honestly, no, I'm not really that excited about any other games. And I was really expecting Microsoft. They bought up all these studios. I was really expecting them to come with like an exclusive, like a Horizon Zero Dawn. I thought it was going to be an open world game that they created, or one of their studios, created under their name, or however it works. Yeah. But I really thought they were going to come with some open world game that was new, like it just blow us out of the water. And like it didn't happen, and I'm not really mad about that because that's a lot to expect too. Oh yeah. But no, just overall, not very impressed, which kind of takes us to our next point. We have the Xbox showcase done. We have the PlayStation showcase done. So are we any closer to buying either system? So I'll kind of throw it to you here. Did it really change these showcases? Did it really change your opinion of which one you might buy first?
It really didn't. I mean, Halo, we kind of talked about this. Halo is one of my all-time favorite franchises. That being a launch title, and I know people will be like, oh, it's not Series X exclusive. It's coming out on the Xbox One too. I'm like, shut the fuck up. It's an Xbox exclusive, okay? And PC, I guess, through Game Pass. But anyway, that is a system seller for me. Like, I know I will get it. I know I will have a fun time with it. The only thing that would have changed my mind is if PlayStation came out and said something like the new Horizon or there'd be a God of War that would be an actual launch title. But so far, the only launch title that I know of for PlayStation is Spider-Man Miles Morales, which I'm okay with that. I will eventually play it. But if I'm choosing between Spider-Man and Halo, I'm freaking choosing Halo.
Yeah.
So at launch, I'm Xbox is what I'm going to get first. The only other thing that might change my mind is if there is a massive price difference. Like if one of them is like $150 cheaper than the other
but there can't be. Like these guys know they got to be similar, so I don't think we're going to see that.
I don't think so either. So, I mean, we're in a fortunate enough position, you and I, that I'm pretty sure both of us will own both of them at some point. So I'm not sweating too much about this whole console wars, which one's better, which one has better exclusives, because I feel like at the end of the day, I'm going to have both. And I know not everyone is in that position. I totally understand that.
But we're not going to have both until maybe a year or so, maybe 2 years down the road. So see, this first, we're going to get both of them, but this first purchase is still very important because you're not going to get that next one for a while.
For a little while.
You know, and you're going and what you're going to do is you're going to play a lot of your third-party games on that first system. And man, I don't know. I just don't know right now. Like, okay, it definitely comes down to launch titles. Like, what's there at launch. Okay, so if PlayStation really doesn't have much and Xbox has Halo, but then PlayStation is like, hey, Horizon Zero Dawn's going to drop in 2 or 3 months, then crap, I don't know.
Then that's a big decision, absolutely.
Yeah, and then obviously the specs, we think the specs are going to be very similar, but if one is, let's say one is a lot greater than the other one, well then your third-party games are going to be a lot better. So man, I'm definitely leaning towards the PlayStation, but I think I'm leaning towards the PlayStation just because of how I feel of the PlayStation 4 over the Xbox One, and so I'm more confused, man. I'm more confused than I've ever been in my life right now. I really just don't know. Like Halo at launch, yes, that is huge. If it does launch with Halo, like you said, and versus Spider-Man, I probably will go with the Xbox first. But then, damn, I want to. You know what's going to happen if I buy an Xbox first, I'm going to end up buying a PlayStation 5 a lot quicker than I freaking want to. So, but that's okay.
Only if something comes out for PlayStation 5 that really interests you. Like, yes, I'm interested in Spider-Man, like we said, but until the Horizon or the God of War or the next Uncharted or whatever comes out, and that might be a year away. Let's be honest, we don't have release dates. Hell, we don't even have release dates for the consoles right now, much less those games. But so I'm hoping, like Halo, I know I'm going to want to play. So like for me, that's a no-brainer. And then yes, once 1 or 2 of those other big exclusives come out for PlayStation, then I'll buy a PlayStation. Problem solved. But if they just would have, if I just wish PlayStation would have had a stronger launch title than just Spider-Man, which, hey, don't get me wrong, that is a game.
Do we know yet? I mean, I don't remember them actually saying whether it's going to be a launch or not.
I think they said holiday 2020, so that could be launched. That could be a month after. I mean, until they announce these damn release dates, it's all speculation anyway. But we spent a lot of time talking about which console we're going to buy, and we've also spent a good amount of time here talking about open world games. And the new consoles are going to have open world games. So let's kind of go back to those a little bit. We hinted at this when you were talking about Ghost of Tsushima earlier. But we talk a little bit about the different art styles in video games in general, but definitely open world games. We have that realistic versus a bit more of a stylized, maybe anime type style. Which one do you actually prefer when it comes to your open world games?
Well, I didn't know you were going to ask me that question. That's a tough. That's tougher than the console question, man.
I'm putting you on your toes right there.
Because, I love both of them. I definitely like realistic games. But then also, like we talked about kind of at the beginning, that's kind of why I wanted to return to this because I wanted to talk about more, but I knew we needed to get to the Xbox Showcase because it was such a big news thing. So here we are returning to it. I don't know. Let's go back to the consoles. That seemed a little bit easier on which one I was going to buy first. I like both. And it really depends on the game. Like if you take The Witcher 3, you can't make that like an anime or more animate, I guess. I don't know if that's the word right here.
We'll just say stylized.
Animation style, whatever. Like, you can't do that with The Witcher 3. Like, it just wouldn't work. And so that game needs to be more realistic when it comes to the art style. But then if you got a game like, Breath of the Wild, especially with the Switch, because it can't do 4K gaming, you can take an art style like that, which is like, anime. I guess, I think cell shading also happens there. I think that's maybe a proper term, technical term. I don't really know.
I don't know all the officials behind it. Yeah, I don't know. So you're good.
But people know Breath of the Wild's art style. It's definitely not realistic, but damn, it's supposed to be like around 900p. We're sitting here. Okay, these games aren't 4K, but they're higher than 1080p. Like, your Ghost of Tsushima, your Horizon Zero Dawn, even your Witcher 3 upgrades, I think, are better than 1080p. And so, when you can take an art style like Breath of the Wild and make it look that beautiful, that makes me love that art style. And that's why I think I love Ghost of Tsushima a lot so far, is because it definitely has a realistic look to it, but also has that, animation, anime style, kind of like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
And it mixes it very well. So like you're going through a part, this grass, it looks real. Like, this looks real. And then you get these flowers that are a little more animated. And that's what makes the game look so beautiful. And so it's just a great mixture. But for me, it really depends on the game. And it really depends on the system, what you do. Kind of what's your whole feelings on art styles in open world games?
Well, I think it depends on the tone that you're going for with the game. Because you mentioned Breath of the Wild. It's a more lighthearted game in general. Yes, I get that Hyrule is in ruins from the Calamity. I get that. But it's still a more lighthearted, exploration type game. So I really think having a more, I don't want to call it cartoony because that's really not the right word, but having a less realistic art style for it, I think works when you're going for a slightly less hardcore, a little breezier tone. Whereas if you have something like The Witcher 3, which has a lot of dark and mature themes, you got the violence, the sex, the plagues, the blood, like everything that's going on in The Witcher 3. If you took something like that and slapped it in like Breath of the Wild's art style, I think it would lose some of that. I mean, and that's a generalization. Definitely. You could make it work. These developers could make it work because they're very, very talented. But to me, it just really comes down to what kind of tone you're going for. If you want a more serious or even like a darker, more mature tone, then you almost really have to go with those realistic graphics that help convey the seriousness of what you're trying to do. Now, Breath of the Wild, like I said, it's just a lighter game, not just in colors, but tone, everything. So it works in kind of a lighter art style. So, and I get, yes, Nintendo kind of has to lean that way just because their system isn't as powerful, of course, as your Xbox and your PlayStation. But all in all, it just depends on the tone you're going for. And I'm excited to see Ghost of Tsushima because I think it's going to be fun to see how they mix. They kind of mix and mash that a little bit. I'm excited to hear you talk about that because you seem like you're really loving that mix of art style. So I'm really excited for it. But to me, it all comes down to tone and what your game is trying to do. I like my photorealistic games. And I like my awesome Nintendo art style too. So just make a good game around it and I'm going to be happy.
It's like Death Stranding. Like you had to make that one realistic. That's the only way that game works. If you make that cartoony, those BTs, man, they ain't fucking around. Those are not cartoony enemies. That style would not work at all for that game. So not really a long conversation that I wanted to have. Just kind of wanted to hit back on it. But anyways, art style, is definitely important in open world gaming. But here's another thing I want to talk about, and that's the music in open world gaming, because I'm kind of going back and forth on what I like about this. But first, I'm going to throw it to you. Kind of music overall, like, an open world game, do you like a lot? Do you not like a lot? When do you like to hear it? Go ahead.
Music to me is one of the absolute most important parts of video games in general, for one thing, but for open world games as well, because most open world games, you're going to be spending 100, 200, or even more hours in this game. So you have to have music that is going to walk that fine line between like being too much and too little. Like if you have too much or it's too loud, it's going to turn you off really quick. If it's too quiet, you don't even remember it. So open worlds, I feel like, are stuck straddling a much tougher line than like a more linear type of game when it comes to their music, because they got to realize I might wander around Hyrule for 200 hours. I can't get tired of that overworld theme or have an overworld theme that is so like bombastic or annoying that it just that it drives you crazy after a while. So I do think there's some open world games out there that really do strike a great balance. The Witcher 3 is one of them, has an absolutely amazing soundtrack. Just the songs from like the Skellige Islands just match the area so well. Things like that. So I know it's to me, it's one of those where open world games definitely have it tougher. And when you think back, that wasn't such a problem like even 5-10 years ago when games weren't as big. And and you could have you think back to some of the Zelda games, your Ocarina of Time, your Twilight Princess, we could still sit there and hum those open, the world, overworld, for lack of a better word, themes in our head. But you never spent that much time. But now you've got your Assassin's Creeds, you've got your Death Strandings, you've got your, Breath of the Wilds. It's just, you can't have music that's quite as loud and quite as in your face now. So it's a tough line for me, I think, to walk between having too much and too little music. But it seems like this is something you've definitely been thinking about a little bit. What are your thoughts on the music in open world games?
Red, you know what I did? I just realized this. I put a bunch of topics on the outline that I can't make decisions on. I can't make a decision on the console. I can't make a decision on open world. We talked about the art style of open world gaming, and now I can't make a decision on music in open world gaming. I mean, okay. You know, man, here, I miss the days of Ocarina of Time. Now, that's not, the games weren't as big. You didn't play them as long. You weren't playing 100 hours of those games. And so they could play a theme all the way through. But the reason I kind of brought this up is because I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima. And to me, it feels like it's an open world game that has a little bit more music. Maybe not music, just like sounds. There's definitely a musical aspect to it. But I don't know if I particularly call it music. It's more of like a score or a sound, which I don't really know music. Maybe a score is a song. A score might be a song. I don't know. But, there's a little bit more music in it. And I was like, damn, I missed that. In open world games, I'm just so used to running around and just hearing natural sounds or kind of like some ambience. And it's okay, but it feels like it's too much. Like AC Odyssey, I'm just like, man, the music in this game is just kind of... Now, Odyssey, I think it's a great game overall, but there's so many things where I'm just like, it's okay. And I think that's why I got away from it. Well, I don't think really it was AC Odyssey's fault. I think Ghost of Tsushima just looked that damn good in that. I just wanted that game.
Hell yeah.
But like I said, Odyssey is just kind of the music's like, and it's that same thing. We kind of you talked about it. It's not Witcher 3, which we know we love Witcher 3. We compare everything to Witcher 3, but Breath of the Wild, same thing. Some great music in the game, but throughout the open world, there wasn't really a lot going on. Natural sounds.
It's too subdued. They went the other extreme with Breath of the Wild and made it too
that's
quiet.
Okay. I do agree with you that you can't have, if you're playing 100 hours of a game and you're hearing the same theme, that can get old. But I think what I really want to say, and here's my decision. Here's my damn decision. I'm making one. I want to see more music in open world games, but don't do it the whole time. I don't know exactly how to go about that. Just, I guess when you get to more sections, more areas, maybe if you're still going to play that natural or ambient sound, maybe then put a score or a musical song right there. Yeah. That's kind of what Ghost of Tsushima does. It just has, you hit these little areas, it has a little bit more music, a little bit more sound to it. And I just really, really like that. It gets me in the mood because you're sitting here, you're saying you don't want to hear the same sound over and over. Well, those natural sounds are kind of the same. Even though they're natural and they make sense, it is the same sound over and over again.
It gets repetitive.
So, to me, one thing, one of the many things that made Witcher 3 so great was that there was a lot of music. And if I remember correctly, I want to say there's an overworld theme throughout the entire game, wasn't there? It changed up, but there was some type of theme.
I'm pretty sure, and it's been a little while since I've played Witcher 3, but I am pretty sure that there was almost always some kind of music playing. Yeah. And like you said, you mentioned the nature sounds, that, animals, water running, wind blowing, whatever, and that's all important. That all needs to be in there too. Yeah. But having some kind of music is so important, and Witcher 3, just having something consistently, I think it really stands with you. And it sets the tone. I know we kind of talked about art style setting the tone for an entire game. I think music can set the tone for an area. Yeah. If you switch up the music enough as you enter different regions or you enter a town or anything like that, and you match the music to that region. Witcher 3 did that great. Most Zelda games actually do a great job of, the music that you hear when you enter an area. Even Breath of the Wild, which I know we've criticized a little bit, it still changes up the music in some of the different regions.
Who does the best at music entering an area? Death Stranding. Man, when you're walking over a hill and they play a Low Roar song, which I didn't even know who Low Roar was until I played Death Stranding. I was like, oh my God, I got to start listening to these guys. But they do the best at that. You go over a hill and oh my God, the music comes on. Fantastic, but go ahead.
No, I'm with you like that. Death Stranding did a great job because it is quiet a lot in Death Stranding. But then when it makes the music more impactful when it does hit, like you said, you pop over a hill and you get a beautiful view and then you just hear one of these songs kind of fire up. And it's another one of those ways that I think some games do a great job of using silence to make their music more impactful. Yeah. And I think Death Stranding was an absolutely great example of that. Like you said, because most of the time you're exploring, if I'm correct, there's very, very, very little background music. Right. And then, like you said, one of those songs hits and you're like, oh, yeah, this is making me stop and think about this section a little bit more, whatever. It's just using silence sometimes, or just not silence, because you'll always have a little bit of ambient, like I said, nature sounds.
Yeah.
But just using that silence to accentuate like when you want your music to hit, I think is a very underrated like skill. You always talk about you want a good soundtrack, but you got to know how to make it powerful, like make people feel it too. And I think Death Stranding absolutely nailed that. So I will say one thing I love about open world soundtracks, they make for some of the best things to listen to at work. Like, some people can listen to podcasts or like regular music at work. For me, that throws me off. Like I get distracted listening to the podcast or listening to regular music, or I catch myself singing along, and the next thing you know, the whole office is staring at you.
Red, I'm the same way. I only listen to instrumental stuff at work.
It just keeps you focused, I feel like. And I saw an interesting, I can't remember if it was on Discord or a Twitter post or something, but it's like, like ambient video game noise like that or music like that is made to kind of keep you focused and keep you in the zone of the video game. So listening to it while you're at work, it kind of has the same effect. And it's just, to me, I love listening to like just open world soundtracks, especially, Skyrim's is a great example. Obviously The Witcher 3, I love listening to those soundtracks while I'm at work. I really do think that it keeps me focused, and usually, let's be honest, they're usually just some pretty damn good soundtracks all in all.
It's also great, and you're not going to know about this one, but when you're trying to get babies down, like you're sitting there, you're walking them, we're trying to rock them. Man, if you put on some Skellige, now I'm definitely biased towards Skellige music because it's such a great sound. But I listen to Skellige, the theme basically of the place, all the time when I'm trying to get my kids down. So it's also great for that. Agree with you. Great at work. But here, kind of, something that wasn't music to people's ears recently was this announcement, and this is hilarious, that Riot Games, it's not hilarious because it really has it's serious.
There's a darker undertone to it.
Yeah, it has a darker undertone. But Riot Games and Saudi Arabia's Neom Partnership, where they kind of had this whole partnership to do like this, we're kind of go into, more about it.
Yeah, so this caught my attention a couple days ago. It's just, the city, like Saudi Arabia is building a brand new city, like from the ground up.
Which is Neom.
Yeah, it's called Neom, and it's supposed to be this ultra futuristic city. And so the city itself was going to be a sponsor for the League of Legends European Championship, and like the primary sponsor. Like they're kicking in it. I'm not sure if I ever saw how much money they were actually kicking in.
I saw it as a proposed $500 billion.
Oh, that's what the city is supposed to cost.
Oh, okay. That's the number I saw.
Yeah, and which is just mind-boggling.
I thought that was a high number for a partnership between a video game industry.
I'm pretty sure the Riot Games guys would cash out and go live on a freaking yacht the rest of their life. I mean, they might be already anyway. But anyway, and as soon as they announced this partnership, man, the League of Legends community, including Riot, so a lot of Riot's own employees just blew up and just criticized it, bashed the deal. And not to get too political or anything like that, but Saudi Arabia does not have a great track record of human rights towards women, towards the LGBT community. And on top of that, when they're building this city, they're apparently dislocating or like evicting an entire tribe that lives where they're building this city. So naturally, when Riot Games comes out and says, we're going to partner with Saudi Arabia. The people were outraged. I mean, the professional players, probably other sponsors, I'm sure, but I haven't really heard too much about that. But, even riots, even when your own employees are coming out and criticizing you, you did something wrong. It's like, it just seems like such a tone deaf move. What do you think? I get, like, business is business. They're in it to make money. I get that. But man, it seemed tone deaf to me.
There's common sense, and this is just common sense. Like, there's just some things that you just don't do. Like, you need to sit down. Like, sometimes money corrupts a lot. And sometimes you got to sit down and think about, just common sense. Should I be doing this? It's like they say, before you send a tweet or something, think before you hit send. This is the same thing. Just think a little bit. Just use common sense. And that tribe was, I had it written down. Don't know if I'll say it right, but Huwaiti or Huwait or something like that. That was a tribe that they're kicking out of their area or land. But yeah, this just... Well, first of all, fucking Saudi Arabia, that's not even... Is that Europe?
No, it's not even in Europe. So I'm with you there. I didn't understand that either.
Yeah, like I was sitting there, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's not... I don't know my geography like really well. I was like, I'm pretty sure Saudi Arabia is the Middle East. So why the hell there's a European championship? Yeah, if you want to have like a Middle Eastern one that you create, okay, maybe that makes sense, but to have a European Championship in Saudi Arabia reminds me a lot of Qatar and the fucking World Cup coming there in 2022.
Hey, that money talks, man. That money talks.
How the hell did this city or this country win the World Cup? And everybody right out the bat knew it was bribery. Everybody knew
absolutely.
that.
Hey, and FIFA got drug over the coals for that shit.
This is the same crap. And you should have known this happened because you know of the human right violations. Yep. You know how they treat the LGBTQ community. Like, like you just, common sense, man. Just don't do it. It's a dumb idea. And like, one day later, they canceled their agreement. Duh.
That's the best part. That's the best part of the story.
Yeah. And like, sometimes you're like, did they do this just for the press? I don't think they did. I think they really wanted to do this, and then they saw the backlash. And like, okay, we can't do this, but you guys are dumbasses. Okay, you're dumbasses.
It really
and
is.
Speaking of dumbasses, let's go to some of these Twitch streamer bans that have been happening recently. A lot of this, in a couple episodes, we talked about this. Now, it's more in regards to executives in these video game companies, developers, that were getting fired or resigning because of sexual misconduct, basically. That includes, harassment, assault, abuse. And now, this is affecting the whole video game industry. And recently, what's really came down hard is Twitch banning streamers, which, Twitch, they closed their eyes to this for a long time too. So Twitch is to blame for letting this shit slide for a long time. But, at least, here's the whole thing with what's going on now with, just everything. We're seeing the Black Lives Matter take on, it's globally now. And a lot of these other things, sexual misconduct and stuff, we're seeing, take on, it's going globally. And I think that's great because more people are becoming aware, and then it's also making people less scared to speak up, which I think is incredibly important. And, we're making progress. We're definitely not all the way there on some of these matters.
No, definitely not.
We're making progress, and that's definitely important. And so I like to see that, okay, we had the executives of these companies getting fired or resigning, and now, we're starting to see some progress. Now it's coming to these Twitch streamers. And, it's sad, it's stupid. You all have heard our opinions on this whole sexual misconduct crap. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. It doesn't need to happen. It's disrespectful. I have 3 daughters, so I don't look at it very lightly. Now, there are situations where I guess a male could be the victim, but usually we are talking about females here. So these Twitch streamer bans, I'm glad they're happening. Twitch,
me too.
You should have done this shit a long time ago. You knew it was going on. Red, what's your kind of, I know your opinion already, but just kind of talk about this story and how you feel about it.
I'm just finally glad to see the hosts of this content take some responsibility and take some action. For years, things like YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, it's still going on. They're all been we're not responsible for the content that goes up. The people who put up the content are the ones who are responsible. We're just a facilitator. We're just a platform. Facebook's been fighting this with the political shit for years and years and years now. And now I'm happy to see Twitch finally take some action, because at the end of the day, yes, they're not the ones putting the content up there, but it's on their service. Man up, do what you got to do the right thing. If there's legitimate, credible claims against these people, get their ass off your platform. I'm happy to see it happening. Like I said, content platforms like this, I feel have skated by for a very, very, very long time without being held responsible for what their people on their platform say and do. Yeah. And I'm happy to see, and it's taken a lot. Twitch has gotten a lot of criticism for a lot of things, for being a little too reactive and not proactive enough, or being really slow to address concerns, not just with this topic, with a lot of them. But
money was coming in. You know how it is. Money comes in.
Yep.
And and they just close their eyes to it, and
exactly.
And they don't do something until it comes to the forefront and everybody starts talking about it.
They don't want to be responsible for policing their own website.
Yeah, you gotta be more proactive on all these things. It's your responsibility to get these people out here. The money doesn't matter, because there will be somebody else that takes their place and will, they'll grow followers. They'll, hopefully do the things the right way, and then the revenue stream will increase for that person. So
plus, you get good.
You can lose a person and still increase your revenue by bringing somebody else up that's better.
Completely
better
agree.
in my opinion, because they're not, treating people bad sexually or doing sexual misconduct.
They're not douchebags.
Yeah, they're not exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of all I had on that. So I hate ending on a bit of a negative topic there, but it does happen sometimes. Let's go ahead and, you want to wrap things up and tell us about our websites out there?
No, I don't want to because, as always, man, you know I didn't have the notes up for the wrap-up. Now, you would think that after so many episodes I would know it, but I don't. But here we go. All the links.
You knew what time we were at. Come on.
Yeah, all the links will be in the description. You can support us on Patreon or PayPal. And if you can't support us financially, definitely leave a review or rating that helps us out with our rankings. And then we also have merchandise on our websites. Two Guys Playing Zelda, TGPZ Gaming, and those are affiliate shops, so we may earn a commission if you make purchases through our links. Red, you kind of want to talk about some of the other stuff we got going on?
Absolutely. We got 2 Facebook groups out there. We've got Gaming Realm, where we talk all things video gaming, of course, and then we've got Zelda Realm, where we specifically talk about Zelda. You can find us on YouTube at Two Guys Playing Zelda and also at TGPZ Gaming. We got a Discord channel or server channel, whatever the hell it's called.
It's
Discord.
called server.
Server, thank you.
You got channels on the server, Red. Get it right.
There we go. Sorry, 23 episodes in. I'm still learning too. And on there we talk about gaming in general. We talk about Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox, PC gaming. We talk about booze. We talk about sports. A lot of Premier League lately, but now that other sports are ramping up, we'll probably talk that too. So There's something for everybody out there on our Discord server. So, and then of course you can find us on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. Like you said, all those links are down in the description below. So thank you all for listening this week.
Red, hold on, Red. I got something to say. Lately, I kind of been thinking a little bit, and I'm feeling like, we haven't done a Zelda episode in quite a while. So I think the next episode for our Two Guys Playing Zelda fans, let's throw a Zelda episode in there. Let's focus on a game. I'm going to put you on the spot right here, right now. What do you want to talk about? Breath of the Wild, or let's say Ocarina of Time? Which one you want to do?
Ooh, now you're making me make the tough decisions.
Yep.
Huh? Well, I guess that's fair. I did that to you. Let's do Breath of the Wild. We've got a lot there. It's the newest game. We got a sequel coming out here, maybe eventually. Let's do Breath of the Wild next episode. So everyone, stay safe out there. Still, we got a pandemic going on. Keep on gaming, and we'll catch you next episode.